what the craziest thing about that is, obviously they're announcing it in advance because they've got investors that need to know what's happening, and they've got to adjust their profitability and everything like that. But I think they've had so many suicides just in the area that I live from all of the announcements around it, because people are like, they're so heavily invested in their job, their identity is in their work, and so people are just. I know so many people at John Deere who know people who have committed suicide at this point. Welcome to another episode of Patriot on Purpose. Today we're joined by Chad Jewett, who is a farmer, actually. A good old American farmer, something that the country needs a lot of, but he wasn't always a farmer. He has a background in the firearms industry, and so we brought him on today just to talk shop, talk about what's going on in our nation, how firearms are, not necessarily engineered for our defense, but definitely a thing that we need to rely on in order to maintain the freedoms that we care so much about. And, without further ado, welcome to the show, Chad.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This is a really cool opportunity, and glad to join you.
Yeah, excited to have you on.
Absolutely. So one of the first things we do when we bring anybody on is we ask them what the word patriot means to them. And it's kind of a weird question because a couple years ago you wouldn't have had to ask. It seemed like everybody would have known. They would have had their boilerplate answer. But, now the word patriot can have a negative connotation. It can be construed as a bad word. And some people might think that it is online with being a terrorist. Hilarious.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's kind of moved that way in these past few years. But what do I think it is? I think it's somebody who loves this country, who loves the freedoms that we have in this country that we've fought hard to maintain. And it's true, right? Ronald Reagan said, right, that freedom's only a generation away, and I feel like we're losing that. And so I think a patriot is someone who loves their country, who loves their family. As a Christian, I think it's someone who loves their Lord and serves their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I think it's someone who's committed to protecting all of those things: their faith, their family, their freedom, and maintaining why it is we have these things. So that's what I believe. I don't believe it's a bad word. I don't believe it's a terrorist. I believe it's those people that, we're clinging to, maybe it's historical doctrine, but it's a living, I believe that the Constitution is a living, breathing document that keeps changing and growing with us. And so I love it. Just like I believe the Bible is a living, breathing document, and it grows with us too. And so they're both worth protecting. They're both worth advocating for fully. And so that's what I believe a patriot is. I believe that someone that loves this country, loves their family, and loves their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Close to what I answered when we had me do it. So here's a follow-up question that I don't think we've ever asked. Why do you think, because it's obviously true, the word patriot is being thrown around in a negative sense, why do you think that that's the case? Why do you think that people are trying to make it so the word patriot is actually something that is a denigrating term?
That's a great question. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously these past 8 years have been very, they've been a struggle in our country, right? We've been very divisive. And so unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people that are very uneducated. I think a lot of people don't understand what a patriot is. And so when maybe a certain media channel tends to paint that as patriots are bad people. These are the people that are causing the riots. These are the people that are, when everybody's racist, when everybody's a Hitler, when everybody is doing this, that just loves the country, and you're not educated on it, and you don't know our history, you don't know how we got to where we are. I think it's easy to believe. I think people's attention spans don't give them the ability to study and know. They want quick sound bites that they see on Instagram or whatever, or TikTok, and that's where they're getting their education. And so I think they've preyed. I believe that there's a huge majority of people that have preyed on the uneducated folks out there and have construed patriot to be a bad thing. And so that's my personal opinion. It's worth what you paid for it. So, but that's where I'm at.
No, I tend to think that too. I tend to think that the reason that Patriot has been weaponized, essentially that's what happened, is because there's an establishment in power that wants to make it so that people would shun the ideals of our patriotic ancestors, which is, self-determination, a right and responsibility to self-rule, adherence to biblical law and standards.
Yeah.
And so if they can make it seem like that's ick in the words of Gen Z, then of course they have a much easier road ahead to be able to exert their will over a population. So.
Well, if you've got a bunch of people who are extremely proud of being Americans, it's going to be a lot harder to deconstruct things.
Absolutely.
Sure. And I feel like there's actually been blowback there, right? Because you have all of these people getting red pilled because they've watched for the past, again, 8 years. I think you could even go back as far as 2015, right, when Trump was beginning to run. But it was just like, hey, these people are ultra right. They're Nazi adjacent, all of these kinds of things. And so many people are like, no, I'm just a regular freaking person that wants to live my life the way that I want to live it, not hurting other people, kind of a traditional libertarian stance. And then, after a long time, they're like, wait a second. If you're going to keep calling me some kind of ultra, not that everybody's coming ultra right, they're like, I'm just going to go ahead and investigate this a little bit more and find out, what do I really believe? I'm not going to let you label me this way.
I agree, and I have a whole lot of libertarian leanings in me because I want the government as uninvolved in my life as humanly possible. I want them as small as possible, and so I want to be left alone, to be honest, for the most part. And I think you're right. People are getting sick of that, and there is blowback coming. We're watching it kind of live on TV right now within the Democratic Party. It's just crumbling right now, and I don't mind it. So I'd like to see both parties crumble, frankly. But yeah.
I would too. So you're a collapsitarian almost.
Yeah, I think so. I'm a pretty simple guy, and I think that on politics side, I think term limits fixes a whole lot of things, including I think there should be term limits on the Supreme Court, but that's a whole nother thing. So yeah, lifetime appointments is a bad idea in my opinion. So
yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No. I know that I would not be. I don't imagine in 50 years from now I'd be somebody you want on the Supreme Court, right? 95, 96 years old. I don't think that's what you want, and I don't think that's what the country deserves. So anyway.
I certainly don't want a 95-year-old president.
No, right. We've almost got it with either choice here.
So part of the way that you were introduced to me is that I knew that you worked with a firearms company for a long time, a firearms company that I actually happened to own one of their models. And I know that you have since left that to pursue a more traditional lifestyle in the state of Illinois, which is, as I mentioned in the intro, farming. What was it drew you to make that kind of a decision? I think that's kind of an anathema to what it looks like to live in this modern, progressive American world, and I don't think that a lot of people would fully understand why you did it, but at the same time, I'm guessing there's a lot about the decision that was rooted in something that all of us share at a bare bones values.
Yeah. So I love the opportunity to work in the firearms industry. Still do a little bit, like some consulting stuff here and there, and keep my fingers in it a little bit. But ultimately, it hit home for me about 2 years ago when I started looking at the number of nights I was spending in hotels, and you start thinking about the toll that it pays on your kids, and my wife, right? And so my wife and kids, and when you have more nights in a hotel than you do at home in a year, you're like, this is stupid. This is and this is for a company, and private equity folks that they're going to chew you up and spit you out. And not every private equity is like that, but certainly a whole lot of them are like that. And so you start realizing the money's nice, it's fun, but it's taking a toll, physically, mentally. And so I'm willing to just be done with that, pursue the things that I want to do. I want to raise a great family. I want my kids to love the Lord. I want my kids to love and serve this country. I want to be the best husband I possibly can. And it's really tough to do that well when you're spending 180 plus nights a year in a hotel, traveling all around.
It's a lot of nights.
And so it's just silly, right? And so it was time to make a change, and it was going into my son's senior year of high school. So a year ago, right, that I was like, I gotta go, because he's in Army basic training as we speak right now, and so I knew that like I want that last year. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna be home and stuff. So it was worth it. I got, I still have two daughters in high school and stuff. And I'm like, this is what matters. Family matters, being with them. And so, yeah, it was a tough choice, but it was the right choice. And so I'm excited about, I love working on the farm. I love the opportunities to still stay involved in the firearms industry, and maybe that will, do something else in the future with it. But I'm happy. I've never been happier, to be honest. And it's been great. So, and I've never made so little money, and that's the best part about it, right? Like, it's like you start looking at things and you're like, oh yeah, I'm chasing the wrong things here. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's for darn sure. Money. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, about how money does not equate to happiness, and
no.
I was actually just reading that I think it was in Psalm 73, and it's Asaph talking about how he wants to desire God more than anything else. And man, that really struck home for me, because as a business owner and somebody who's trying to always build and grow, like, I focus intently on revenue, both business and personal revenue. And I'm like, it doesn't make you happy. And in fact, when things go wrong with all of your dreams and your pursuits and your plans, it makes you far more unhappy than you would be if you were just to focus on the simple things, the things that mattered.
Right. Yeah. So true. I mean, yes, there is an amount of money needed to live and survive, but and conversely, I think you ought to work your butt off. You ought to work hard. Hard work is a good thing. And I think, it goes together, but at the same time, don't neglect the family. And so, I was in law enforcement before getting into the firearms industry, and the firearms industry and law enforcement have a lot of similarities, just in like the divorce rates and things like that. You see, it's like, man, we need to do a better job of taking care of our families and stuff. So
yeah, law enforcement has it really rough. I was doing it.
Oh, it's terrible.
I was doing marketing for a group some years ago that they had a particular service that they did for the law enforcement, officers out there. And as I was doing that research, I was going into message boards and reading just kind of like, we're there talking about the late nights, the not being part of the family, like basically coming home when their family's leaving. And then on top of that, they're dealing with what the politicians are doing and how that's affecting their ability to do their job. And then how that then affects the way the public perceives them. And we're just going like, man, these guys and gals are getting it from every angle.
Yeah.
Not to mention the criminals that they have to deal with and the aftermath of the crime, which I would imagine is probably one of the hardest parts, especially if you're dealing with, anything sexually related or murder. That kind of stuff has just got to take an incredible toll on your psyche and soul.
So if you guys are okay with that, I'd love to kind of like I'd love to keep talking about the farming stuff in the current day, but I'd also love to kind of jump back like in the beginning, like where you grew up and what childhood was like, and then kind of like what led up to law enforcement and kind of walk through that.
Yeah, so I grew up actually in Southern Illinois. You mentioned that earlier before we got on, but yeah, I grew up down in Southern Illinois, small town down there, and it was great. Loved it. Had a ton of fun. My family was in commercial roofing, and so grew up. I'd spend my summers roofing and stuff, and so. I knew I didn't want to do roofing.
Yeah.
So, actually went to college to got a religion degree.
Okay.
And thought I was going to go into some sort of working at a church some way, and did an internship. I think, what is that? Probably between like junior and senior year at college, and it's like it was kind of my first exposure to, seeing behind the veil of some of the church politics. Was pretty immune to that, and I was like,
Yeah, there's a lot.
This is disgusting, right? And I don't want anything to do with this. And so, like, I'm just going to finish my degree, and kind of had this thought of I wanted to try law enforcement. Nobody in my family had ever done that, but it just kind of sounded cool, right? So started applying for law enforcement agencies, and then I was applying in Illinois, and I was applying in Colorado because I love Colorado. And so it's kind of like whoever's going to hire me first is where I'm going. And so I got hired by the Illinois State Police,
Okay.
and so got into law enforcement. Worked for the state police for a while, and then had an opportunity to actually move to Colorado, and we decided to move to Colorado. Didn't exactly know why we were going. We kind of had some ideas, but it was time for a change. Some of the politics side of things on the law enforcement, and Illinois, and their corrupt nature and all the BS politics is so true, and it's so prevalent, and it's ruining, great agencies and stuff here, unfortunately. But I saw it, and it was like, it's funny. Barack Obama spoke at our graduation from the State Police Academy, and nobody knew who he was. They actually announced him as Barack Obama because nobody knew who this guy was.
Straight
And then
from
we're like,
Kenya.
okay, what? Yeah. It was just like, who is this guy? But that was kind of funny, hindsight. But then, so then got out of law enforcement, went to Colorado, and that was where I had my first opportunity to get into the firearms industry. Started working for Sig Sauer, as a kind of a manufacturer's rep for them, covering the Rocky Mountain area. And so that was a lot of fun. It was cool. Good exposure to get in and start working for them. That was right about the time, actually, when I was working for them was when they got the Army contract with the 320 and stuff. So that was cool. And then I started working on the retail side, running a gun store in the Denver area. Ran that for a while, and then got recruited by Shadow Systems to go down to Texas. So we moved down to Texas for a year. And they were, I was, I think, employee number 6, right? Super small. Nobody knew who they were or anything. And so went there, had the opportunity to help build that company. Go from just doing some aftermarket parts to building complete guns, and having, developing a dealer base, a distributor base, international programs, law enforcement programs, kind of developed it all from the ground up, which was a lot of fun. Built a cool team and stuff. And we actually moved out. I hated the Dallas area personally. Just too many people. When you come from a small town, there's there's a lot of people here. And so my wife and I were like, man, this isn't working. We got to get out of here. And so
what part of Dallas were you guys in?
The Frisco, Plano area.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So just a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of suburbia, a lot of concrete.
Oh man. Yeah. And, everybody was very indoorsy there.
Yep.
And
unless you're going out to the lakes, I think the main activity up there is shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it just,
blues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, then we were like, man, we really want to be back by the farm, and move back here. So back to kind of northwestern Illinois by my wife's family, and have been, doing more farming ever since, and kind of really diving into it here in the past year, taking on more and more of it. And it's been great. So yeah, that's the nutshell of it.
It's a family farm then, I take it?
Yeah. So it's me and really her folks that do it, right? So I had my daughter out. Well, actually, we talked on the phone the other day, Adam. I was teaching my daughter how to mow the hay and stuff, so that was fun. So yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
teaching them, and it's just, it's so good. So
It's all
good.
John Deere equipment, I assume.
You know what? We don't have any John Deere
Oh
equipment. It's
my
all
gosh.
red.
Oh
I
my
know. I know. Geez, well, I don't know if John Deere's going to have any employees left after all the thousands and thousands of people they're laying off here.
Oh
So,
no,
yeah,
I
yeah,
hadn't heard
that's
about
like
that.
yeah, John
yeah.
Deere is laying off what is it, 10% of their workforce, which
I,
is
I, it seems like
insane.
it's 10% every week. It seems like so. It's been bad.
Yeah,
Jeez, man.
they've been. What the craziest thing about that is, obviously they're announcing it in advance because they've got investors that need to know what's
Yeah.
happening and they've got to adjust their profitability and everything like that. But I think they've had so many suicides just in the area that I live
Right.
from all of the announcements around it because people are like, they're so heavily invested in their job, their identity is in their work, and so
Hmm.
people are just. I know so many people at John Deere who know people who have committed suicide at this point. And fortunately, most
Yeah.
of the people that I know that work for Deere happen to be Christian, so they're not all that,
Yeah.
they're obviously upset if their job is taken away from them, but they're not shaken to the point where they're like, I have to exit this world because my
Right.
job at John Deere is gone.
I mean, what's going on with that? Is it just a function of less and less, private farming is taking place, or
Um,
what's?
so, I mean, ultimately, it's all tied to the economy. So the economy is not amazing,
Yeah,
as we all know. And there has been in the past 12 months, there has just been a massive drop in farm equipment prices. So equipment prices are tanking. Nobody can afford to buy, the equipment, and the commodity market. So all your grain prices are terribly low. So you have incredibly high inputs. The cost to put plant the seed, get it in, and everything with incredibly low sell points. I mean, we're putting it in at this point. Like, well, we're going to lose money on it, right? At this point, and
Mm-hmm.
which is insane. So um, nobody's buying an equipment right now, and so I mean, a new combine, you're going to spend at least $500,000
Oh
minimum,
gosh.
and so
Some of them
that's
are just like when we go to the John Deere Museum because it's right
yeah,
across the
yeah,
river, and those
right,
combines they've got to cost 1.2 to $2 million.
hmm
Because I have a buddy who's on the engineering team over there, and
yeah,
for Harvester in particular, and they talk about the prices, and it's just like how could you possibly end up being profitable as a farmer if you
yeah,
were buying a $2 million piece of equipment on top of all the other equipment that you need to have? So
yeah. That's one piece of equipment that does one thing,
yeah,
and yeah, yeah,
do you? I
yeah.
mean,
So
do you think that?
that's a lot of it. Yeah.
I mean, do you? So when you're looking at that and the other data points that you have access to, do you think that it's just purely just a function of what's going on in the economy, or do you think that there's other things at play as well?
Um, so I think it is largely tied. I mean, largely tied to the economy, the inflation side of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it has, and it's funny. I see a lot of similarities in the farm. Do I see in the firearms industry? Right, like the firearms industry is not doing well.
yeah,
And historically, every presidential election year, there's about a 12-month ramp up with the NICS checks for background checks for new firearms purchases from the December prior through that November. It's not happening in 2024,
hmm.
and so you're seeing similar things in on the farm side too, where some of the prices which historically start doing a little bit better about this time of year, they start coming up. Um, it's not happening. So it's definitely when you start seeing it. I don't know. I'm not an economist by any stretch,
Sure.
but when you start seeing it affect multiple industries like that, and kind of totally unrelated industries that are starting to have similar things, um, I mean, yeah,
I,
I think it's all tied together to the economic situation. So
I've got a question, and then actually I've got two questions. So the first question is for both of y'all. Have you guys seen people doing the reorder on Walmart on the Walmart app anywhere on TikTok and Instagram?
Mm-mm, I
I
haven't.
I saw that for the first time last week. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically this guy, there's a couple of them now. Like he gets a reminder from Walmart, "Hey, go ahead and reorder what you ordered 3 years ago. Get the exact same order." So he opens up the app and films the order, and let's just say everything in his cart was $161. And then he goes and re-adds every single thing that he had on that order from 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, and then does the total, and it's $464. So a 300% increase in the cost of goods. Like, I mean, nothing in there was great. It's a bunch of Fritos. Hey, nod to Plano
Sure, sure.
and just like crappy food, but
Yeah.
crappy food becoming that much more expensive. And then
Right.
there's another one too. Like, there's probably dozens of them now, but like everybody's
Yeah.
showing 2 to 3x what they were paying 3 years ago. And that's just like anybody who is denying that the economy is not in a state of peril they've got their head so far up their butt that they probably
Yeah.
can't see the sun through their mouth. And
Yeah.
the other thing about it too is just like, well, this is a question. So if people aren't buying from American farms, does that mean that they're just going to China or somewhere else to get a lot of the agricultural inputs that they need, or are we just saying,
Yeah.
uh-uh?
I don't know. I mean, some of it's tied to you got some of the things. So like the Midwest, a lot of the corn being grown is going to ethanol.
Mhm.
Well, consumption, and then with all the push on this, the EV push and all of that, some of the usage is down, and when you got people manipulating prices on things, it's hard to know, in my opinion, what really is the root cause of all of this, because it shouldn't be, but we're definitely seeing it because and it's being affected here. So and I think on the food side of it, the actual food grains or food everything, I don't know what's going on with that. I really don't. I don't know why we're seeing. I mean, obviously there's a ripple down when you see fuel doubles and triples from 3 years ago. Well, the cost to move food or do anything or move any goods anywhere is double or triple, and then you pack inflation on top of that. So what they've got to pay to get it there, I mean, everything has gone up, and I don't know that there's a way to. I mean, and people are making obviously considerably less in relation to it all. So I think everybody's just kind of holding what money they have is tight to the chest, and so that disposable income isn't there. So whether that's going out to eat or buying a new gun or whatever, or even on the farming side, guys not necessarily disposable, but not buying new equipment because they don't know that they're going to need the write-off, or they're going to try to limp something on for for a few more years. Yeah, I mean, we personally, I mean, like, was outside working on our 2006 Hyundai Sonata earlier today that our kids drive and stuff, because it's like we're never going to buy a newer vehicle or anything. It just works fine, and it's been paid off and I don't like debt. So so keep things longer and spend less. And even if we could, I mean, we can't afford it, but we're not going to, buy it. So, cause I don't know what lies ahead. So, yeah.
Which is why everybody should buy a Vanish holster. It's the last. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, it could be the last holster that you had to buy, and it can fix having to buy any more holsters in the future. But I'm not going to do a
There you go.
shameless plug here. I think it does
Hey.
solve a problem.
Yeah.
Which is, well, and this is just an interesting thing too, is like just thinking about John Deere, multi-billion-dollar company, has been growing year over year for such a long time. I would argue that there is probably no bigger company in the ag space other than maybe Caterpillar, but they're more heavy in industrial.
Yeah, they're more heavy.
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like everybody.
Well, there's certainly no more iconic American brand in the
That's for
in the
sure.
ag space, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like they're so big, they're making all of this money. Their investors are making all of this money, and now look what happens. Like all of a sudden, like everything that looks so good on the outside is crumbling from the inside. And it's just one of those things, like it's a biblical principle, I believe. I don't know what verse, maybe you guys can back me up here, but certainly like building bigger storehouses to contain more corn or more grain as it is in the Bible. He's just like, hey, I'm going to go build more storehouses. And God's like, you idiot, you could probably die tomorrow. Like, you don't need to be focusing on these things. Like, those are not the things that matter. And it's such an easy trap. Like, I get trapped in it every
Right.
freaking day being on the marketing team here.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I've got to keep building, but why? We really need to
Right.
just be buying and spending and
Yeah.
not telling anybody.
Well,
not to-
they had announced, John Deere had announced what, 10-point 10 point some billion dollars profit in 2023.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's a lot of money. and and it, being a publicly traded company, yeah, you're right. You got to keep these investors happy, right? Because they want to keep seeing that. I mean, it's funny. You see that with similarities with some private equity too, right? Like private equity we got to keep this, and we'll stomp on people to get to that if need be. And unfortunately, I think there's a certain, you pack on a bad economy, people not buying equipment, and all of that, along with we need to keep shareholders happy and hitting our quarterly returns. Unfortunately, people are going to go in order to hit that. So it's too bad. It's a shame because there's that the stories of the suicides and stuff is just heartbreaking because there's been several, which is it's a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you know of some and I know of some, and I mean we're just I guess we're not a microcosm because we're pretty much in Deer Central, but it's a worldwide thing with them doing these layoffs. So I'm sure it has the same consequences in different markets, or different areas of manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is also an interesting point. Like you're sitting in front of a ton of guns. The firearms industry is such a funny thing in that they always have to have new models like SIG, man, just coming out with a new 365 every other day, and you gotta have it, right? And you gotta have the new this, you have to have the new that. When in reality, I mean, there is an argument for having a couple different weapon systems depending on purpose, but you really just need one. I mean, at the end of the day, one is enough to save your life in like a self-defense situation or whatever it may be. Like, obviously, I think having a pistol and a rifle is probably really all you need. But what I was trying to say here is the firearms industry is just all about like production for the sake of mindless consumption. I mean, you're around however many. I know Nate's got plenty. I've got plenty. Do we need another one? No.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, yes, we do. No, no.
If my wife asked, no.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I always say it's like shoes, right? You gotta have a gun for every outfit, right? So, it is. It's. I carry a SIG 365X macro every day. Love that gun. It's a phenomenal gun. But you're right. Like there is 4,000 variants of the SIG 365, and I mean people just keep buying them, and I mean apparently somewhat, and I think it's also the firearms industry gets moved forward by innovation and new products, and so if they're not going to buy the 365 standard 365, well then we need the macro version, the TACOP version, and the pink version, whatever it is, just anything to get sales. And I saw that working on the manufacturing side too. It's like you're right. Most people need, a shotgun, a rifle, a handgun, and maybe a couple, but then they need to go buy a lot of ammo and train. Yeah. And that's what the vast majority of them don't do. Right. Like, and so, a safe full of guns or whatever and no training isn't worth anything in my opinion. So
I know guys that are just got safes that are full and they're buying nods to be able to see at night. And it's like, I mean, that actually is really cool. Like I would love to have a set of nods, but like, are you actually training and, really are you actually proficient? Like to where like those nods are going to do you any good? Like,
yeah.
So there's an endless sea of things to buy, no question.
Well, then you've got to get your Unity fast mount so that you can throw your red dot up high enough to see through your nods, and then of course,
right.
It's just everything, and I'm not complaining about it.
We should have just stuck with carry handle ARs, and we'd have been fine right now.
It's coming back. I'm certainly not complaining about it, but I think like it's just symptomatic of like what's wrong in this. Not just this world. Yeah. It's what's wrong with the world. We're always looking to something else to make us happy. New gun, a new
we're such so that consumeristic mindset, like gotta have, and we I mean unfortunately when I was on the firearm side, we preyed on that, and I do think it's preying on it, right? Because but the manufacturers aren't making any money by telling people, hey, you should go to training, or you should, so.
I know that's the
Yeah.
hard part, because like it's I'm using this word in an accurate way, but it's cancerous in the sense that like it just has to feed its own growth. It just grows to grow because it can't stop growing. If you like, for one, like if it stops growing, you can't keep hiring. So there is this like relatively benevolent aspect to it. Like, hey, we can create jobs and we can make
Absolutely
things great for people, but it would be a lot better if you were just saying not only, hey, training, but like, you don't need another gun. Why don't you just go give that to charity? Like, nobody does that.
Nobody does it. Yeah. Well, and it's funny, right? The firearms industry, I mean, I look at it as one of the few industries that we treat a firearm almost like a consumable, right? Where we buy it over and over and over and over again, and it works well. And I'm all for it. Like, I love capitalism; it's a great thing. It's a very, very good thing. But there's a certain amount of it that I just don't know. I like when new, truly innovative things come out. That's cool. Awesome. But a different color or a different variation of the same thing is pretty boring. And
let's go there. Innovation. In the past couple of years, what have been some of the more exciting things that you've seen come out of, whether it could be any aspect of the firearms industry, optics, weapon systems, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because even the industry is somewhat cyclical, right? So it was all polymer guns. It was all polymer. For a while, because we went from steel frame to polymer guns, and then it was all the Glock variations and all the Glock clones. And now we're kind of cyclical. We're the cyclical nature. Now we're coming back where heavy guns, 2011s, steel frame, all of this stuff is the cool. That's what's cool in Gucci right now. Like, there's so many 2011 variants out there and stuff. Cool. I love them. I mean, but it's the polymer stuff's not as cool right now. You saw it this past year at SHOT Show, all the lever guns. Lever guns are kind of cool again too, right? So you've seen a lot of lever guns coming back out, and then some of it might have been. Some of it was innovation. If it was innovation, some of it also might have been like, hey, if any of these assault weapon bans that are being talked around all across the country goes into effect, we need some other products. But that's kind of, I think those are going to get squashed, hopefully. But so it's like the lever guns start coming up, and those are what's cool again. But yeah, it's funny. I think not tons and tons of truly, truly unique things out there. Actually, this is one of my favorite guns I've got recently. This was what we got my son. So the Stealth Arms Platypus. Yeah. So this was my son's gift, before he is kind of, hey, happy go graduation and going to the Army. But it's a 2011 that runs off Glock magazines, right? Kind of cool, but like, I love it. It's cool, but it's just kind of what's hip right now is the 2011 game and stuff. I think optic wise, there's been some cool optics. I will say that's been pretty neat to watch that in the past 10 or 15 years, where red dots on concealed carry or duty carry guns just wasn't really a thing. It was kind of just in the competition world. Now you're starting to see those everywhere. Red dots on pistols. I love it. I do not have a carry gun that doesn't have a red dot on it now. It's like every year above 40 you go, it's like it's harder and harder to see those iron sights, and those red dots really make it nice. So I think I wish they weren't a Chinese company. I really like those Holosun optics. Those are really, really nice optics. Man, I wish they weren't made in China. And I wish the CCP wasn't the largest consumer of Holosun optics. But they make a good optic. And I wish some of these American companies would do it. But even optics are funny, because you got 9 million optic companies right now, and half of them are all coming. I mean, probably more than half of them are all coming out of the same factory.
Right.
And it's like, hey, put our name on it. China, Japan. Some of the, there's some good stuff coming out of Japan and stuff too, but like so many of these manufacturers, I mean, the three of us could start an optic company by the end of the day, never make an optic, never touch an optic. And, we could just go to China or Japan and have it made. We don't need engineers. We don't need anything. We just need to do marketing. You talk about being good at marketing. That's all it takes. And that's what a lot of these companies are, which that's been really disappointing seeing that side of it. You got, so many different optic companies and you're like, oh, it's the same optic. It's just got a, company X's name on it or company Y's name on it and stuff. So that's been, I don't know, that was kind of an eye opener for me in the past 10 years in the industry, is like how little manufacturing took place on the optic side, where it's just, contractual stuff. And I was, gullible coming into it. I actually thought if you were a manufacturer, you actually had to make stuff, and found out you really just have to be good at marketing. And that's, what a lot of especially in these optics companies, you see that happening and stuff. But yeah, optics have been really cool. I think, you mentioned nods and stuff earlier. I don't have any, but I sure would like them. They'd be cool. But again, do I need to drop $6,000 or $8,000 on some, PVS 31s? It'd be awesome, but can't afford it. Or thermals and stuff. I think some of that stuff, some of that digital night vision and digital thermal stuff that HoloSense experiment with, it's kind of cool. That's probably the most innovative. I mean, unfortunately, they've been the most innovative of anybody, I think, out there on the optics side. I wish these American companies would get off their butts and do something.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see how far we as a country have moved away from innovation and our own manufacturing. It's cool to see there are some companies that are really trying to bring it back, but
yes,
there definitely needs to be more. What did you like most about being in the firearms manufacturing business?
It was fun to kind of see, you get this full picture of like the birth of a product from concept to engineering to, T&E, like our R&D of it. Like, is this work? We thought this was going to work and it doesn't work. And then once you get a viable product, then building all right, here's our sales and marketing plan to go execute on that. But it was just fun being a part of that. Like when you can look at a product and be like, oh yeah, I remember like, this little feature that maybe seems insignificant, but it was really key in the overall, the end use of the firearm. And so that was really cool, just getting to see that side of it. And it was fun, going from when I started like 2 pieces of equipment and 6 of us to, 120 or so people and 30 different CNC machines, and really truly becoming a manufacturer and stuff. That was cool, because we need more. I mean, one of the things, if I were to get back into the industry and do something personally, I really would like to do something on the manufacturing side, because we need more American manufacturers. Even goes back to that whole, what is a patriot? Like, I think the ability to be a little more self-sufficient and reliant, the ability to make something and produce a good is a good thing and a necessary thing. And I think that's, frankly, I think patriots do that. I think those are the people that are there that can really help this country, that want to invest into American-made stuff. So that's really probably the creation of something from nothing, or from an idea on a napkin to seeing it roll out, was what I probably missed the most on the firearms, on the manufacturing side.
That makes sense. I mean, you definitely seem.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you definitely seem like a builder. Like, you like to build things, which probably speaks to why you're now into the farming space. Like, you like taking something and growing it and seeing it become something different. That transformation. What I've got another question, but Adam, I know you're about to ask something.
No, you're fine, man.
So you mentioned that you didn't like all the travel that was involved with being in that space. Like, was there anything else that you were not a fan of as it related to being in that world?
I hate SHOT Show.
Oh yeah, what do you hate? What do you hate about?
Well, it's it seems like such a. I mean, I hate Vegas. Vegas is such a dirty. It's Vegas, right? Vegas. Like, it's such a dirty, nasty town, and it's so expensive. So expensive.
Well, and you leave part of your soul there, even if you don't participate in anything bad. Like
know,
part of
right?
you doesn't ever return. Like it's
Yeah. And I think the thing that I dislike about SHOT Show is how over the years it was supposed to be for retailers, right? That's where retailers were supposed to go, and it was supposed to cater to them. And it is, it's moved, I feel like, more and more towards the the influencer or the media, and less about the dealer. And so I don't like that. But personally, I mean, I think there's some value in that whole influencer thing. I think it's waning, but it's tough because I feel like the dealers kind of get the short end of the stick. You'd go, you have meetings and stuff, and because I've been there on the dealer side, I've been there on the manufacturer side, so I kind of got to see it both ways. But oh, hey, we need to wrap up your meeting because so and so is coming by for a picture or whatever, and you're like, yeah, but is so and so gonna buy any of these and sell them, or are you just going to give them some free and actually not move the needle? And so I'm sure there's a strong argument for why they do it, but that was one of the things I saw less and less value at it. And the other side of it is, if the manufacturers, Sig pulled out of it, and I don't
wow.
So they pulled out a few years. I mean, they were spending millions and millions and millions of dollars every year at SHOT Show.
I was about to say, because the last time I was there was 2019, and Sig's,
okay,
I wouldn't even call it a booth. Their city was
two-story booth inside the Sands Convention Center, and massive. That was like 20,000 square feet or whatever it was, huge, and millions of dollars. And so you're spending that. Well, it's really hard to get an ROI on that. And if you started taking that money, and I think they've done some of this with some of their events and other things, and focused it on dealers and training and media focused just on you rather than, I mean, they're a big name obviously, but there's thousands of companies screaming for attention at SHOT Show and trying to get somebody's attention. And, I just don't think the value is there for manufacturers. And you see it, Springfield Armory is still going, but has significantly reduced their footprint at SHOT Show. Others are pulling out, and I think it's smart. I think it's going to change. And unfortunately, the firearms industry is guilty of we've always done it that way, so we're going to keep doing it. And which is, we all know that's like the worst answer to any question ever is, why do you do that? Well, because we've always done it. Well, that's terrible. So, I'd love to see some change in SHOT Show. I'd like to see more manufacturers pull out and be like, hey, we want to focus on the dealer and the consumers, the people that are really going to move the needle for us and stuff. So.
Well, that makes sense. Is there any shows were there any shows that you liked that you would?
The NRA show, there's good and bad with it, right? The NRA was obviously, it's been fraught with issues and stuff, but the nice thing, that's the consumer, right? So there's the opportunity to get to talk to thousands of end users or potential end users of the product. So that's really nice. You get a lot of bad feedback, but you also got good feedback. And so it was nice to get to do that with the consumer show. Some of the consumer shows, those are fun. I liked some of those consumer shows or dealer events and stuff, or where you got to interact with end users of your product. That was cool. And there's things you learn at those events that impact future products and stuff. So it was a fun cycle of it all. And I think that's an important piece that manufacturers need to stay. You can't just make it and then rely on somebody else to go sell it. You need to stay involved in that, because that feedback loop is a good thing for future products, and actually listening to what maybe the consumer market wants, and not just what the accounting department says you're going to create, because they want you to create a product that costs X amount of money and makes this margin and stuff. So yeah, so I did like those consumer events where you got to do interact and do things. One of the things we did at Shadow too that was kind of cool was we had a use of pistol and self-defense warranty. So if you ever used your Shadow Systems pistol in a legally justified self-defense shooting, that firearm's most likely going to get taken from you by the law enforcement agency as evidence. Well, copy that police report, get a hold of them, and they replace that firearm for you free of
really
cost.
Cool.
Really, really cool. So, getting to meet people, when I was out and about, that, hey, you guys, you don't know me, but you replace, that was really cool. Or getting to talk to those guys on the phone and stuff, like, hey, the tool I bought from you did its job and was able to save my life and stuff, and that was cool. So those were some things, like with that end user side of it. That was I do miss that side of it.
Yeah, how many? I don't know if this is something you can share or not, but like, how many times was that warranty actually exercised, roughly?
Yeah, I can't say, but I'm not allowed to say, but it was multiple times. Okay. So that's and great. It also that extended to not just like you and I, but it extended to law enforcement that has to buy their own. A lot of law enforcement agencies have to buy their own firearm, and so for use on it is right. I mean, it's funny. I'm actually still a reserve officer at an agency, and yeah, you got to buy your own firearm and stuff. But we extended that to them as well, that's a big deal, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's better that a cop can choose their own weapon as opposed to getting a one issue to them that they don't really like. That's
right.
But they should have a discretionary budget to be able to spend.
Yeah, something.
Yep.
What else about the firearms industry? I mean, we don't have to go here and poo-poo it all together, but
no,
because I've got a few things that I don't like.
Yeah. So, I don't want to poo-poo it. There's a lot of really good people. I love the people. People are great, right? There's some really good people in the industry, and made some really great friends within this industry. Some of my best friends that we will go on family vacations and stuff together, that are guys, and families I've met through this industry. So I do love that. And I think it's cool to see. That's probably one of the best parts of SHOT Show, is just it's like a family reunion in some regards, where you get to see some of these folks maybe you haven't seen for 6 months or 12 months and stuff. But there's a unique community of people that work in it, like on the sales and marketing and on the manufacturer side. That's pretty close and pretty tight. There's definitely some people that are cutthroat and they want to do anything they can to get an advantage of you or to try to take advantage of you rather. And you learn that, but for the most part, there's a lot of really good people out there and on that side. And even to be like, hey, let me make an introduction for you to this distributor that you aren't working with, even though you're a competitor of mine. There's that going on, which is really cool. You don't get to see that in other industries and stuff. So there's definitely a lot of good people in the firearms industry. So
yeah, I think the only thing that I would say that I don't really like about the firearms industry, and it kind of relates to religion in a way, which is that so many of the people in the industry they consider themselves elite and better than regular people, even though they forget that the end user is generally a regular person. And so products are made, not everybody, but a lot of products are made or sold in a way that is aimed at saying, like, you have to be this kind of a person to benefit from this product, or this kind of a product is not for these kinds of people. Like, that elitism is just so weird, and it transcends into the consumer base, because then you have this top tier consumer who thinks that they are X kind of person because they buy X kind of products, but they're not. They're just armchair cowboys. And so, we see that with our product. Like, I know that my product's not going to be chosen by a police department because it has multiple deficiencies, but at the end of the day, like, I'm just hoping people use it so they carry their gun. It could be like, I mean, that's like High Point, right? Everybody
Yeah.
wants to crap on High Point, and yet they're an extremely affordable weapon. Maybe not the most reliable or the most accurate, but if you can't afford a $700 pistol, High Point's a viable option, and it should be what you buy. So that's
Yeah.
just
I mean, I was actually teaching a concealed carry class this past weekend, and that's the question. Well, what gun should I carry? I said, I can't tell you that, but it's whatever you're going to actually keep on you and carry, what you can afford to train with, and what you will commit to carrying on a daily basis. That's the right firearm for you. It may be a SIG, it may be a High Point, it may be a Staccato. I don't know, but just carry it. Just and yeah, uh, it it doesn't have to be a Staccato, or it doesn't have to be some Gucci thing, but just carry it. Protect yourself, protect your family, and yeah, train with it.
yeah. I don't think that the elitism that I was speaking to is necessarily the firearms industry itself. It's like it's actually that consumer base. It's just like because they're Gucci, everything that they
Oh yeah.
do doesn't stink, and so then they just sit there and make memes about it, and then sit there and comment on your ads about how stupid your product is,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's just like, okay,
Oh,
well,
yeah. Well, yeah, because they get to be keyboard commandos, right?
yeah,
From behind the safety of their iPhone or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I see that a lot with
Yeah,
like people hating on Palmetto State Armory. It's just like, oh my gosh, these guys just have reduced the price of the AR-15 to
dude.
under $500, and plenty of people have run them into the ground and love them, and then but they're still not good enough. They're just yeah,
They're well, and what's funny about them is like some of those same Palmetto is such a massive manufacturer, and Palmetto does so much OEM contract manufacturing for other manufacturers, big name manufacturers.
yeah,
And it's funny when you hear some of these people that's like poo pooing Palmetto, but they're like, I love brand X. I'm like, it's Palmetto. It's the same gun. But yeah, you're right. It's not stamped Palmetto, but yeah, Palmetto is, dude, they're awesome. They're so good. I've yet to have, I have a handful of Palmetto ARs, and they just run.
that's
They
awesome.
run and they run and they run. And you're right. They're so affordable. And yeah. And they're easy. I mean, then that's the nice thing on the ARs, right? Like if you want to, I can put a different bolt in it. I can put a different charging handle. I can upgrade things like Legos at a time and do it when it makes sense to, you know, to improve things if I want. But yeah, they are a they're good. I think they're good for the firearms industry. Honestly, Palmetto, they've made a lot of really really great stuff, and it's all made here in America,
Yeah,
and it's affordable, and they employ a whole lot of people, that a whole lot of patriots that are wanting to keep making good guns for good people. So
yeah. It's kind of that thing with Palmetto in general, like going with something cheaper that may be not as good, but means that you have more money left over. I remember I had a conversation with somebody about shooting steel ammo out of an AR-15 and why you shouldn't do it. He's like, well, you really don't want to do it. It's dirty and it's going to mess up the extractor on your bolt carrier. And so, you may have to replace that. I'm like, okay, so a bolt carrier is $30. Like, if I could save hundreds of dollars shooting ammo, why wouldn't I just shoot
right,
dirty ammo
right,
and then buy a new BCG? Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the firearms industry, especially with all the online forums and comments and stuff. Like I don't know, you just got to ignore a lot of it.
100%.
What other companies out there like are interesting to you right now?
um, what is interesting right now? That's a good question. Hmm. I haven't got one, but I want to get one. I want to get a Bull Armory. I want to see. I think Bull Armory's been doing some cool stuff.
I have one
Haven't.
coming on
Do
Wednesday.
you?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. That's cool. I also want to get one of those flux, like the flux defense. Was the Raider or whatever that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Taking the 320 or 365 and making it like a little SBR. Or, I think those things are kind of cool and unique. I even like how they're trying to make it at least appear that you could conceal carry it and stuff. It's kind of cool. So I like that stuff that's going on. Who else? I don't know. That's a good question. Let me think about that one. I can tell you what I don't like seeing. I don't want to see all these ammo companies get sold to the Czech Republic either. There's been so many American ammo companies or other ammo companies all going over there. Like, I think the federal one got squashed and it's not happening, but I just don't like seeing any American manufacturing leave, and don't like seeing all of it going,
What do you think? What do you think? What's driving that? Is it just the cost of manufacturing over here, or?
I think so. I think that's a lot of it. And I mean, you look at like the Czech Republic, you look at Turkey and all that, they're just crushing it in the firearms world, like manufacturing space right now, ammunition manufacturing. And I think the cost of manufacturing is absolutely, a part of it. And you can, there's some really, really good stuff coming out of some of those countries over there too, like mechanic stuff coming out of Turkey and some of the like.
Interesting.
It's really, really good stuff, and so it's hard to knock it. So yeah, I like it. I do think. I mean, I'm sure. Those Canics are very similar to like the Walthers, right? And obviously Walthers are considerably more than the Canics and stuff, but they're really good. I think it's just the cost. Sometimes, unfortunately, the cost of doing business in the U.S. is tough. And there's a gripe I have of I guess the firearms industry is like, we tout that the firearms industry, we love America, we love this and that. Well, there's a lot of love to it, and I'm guilty of this too, right? To a certain point, right? There's a certain dollar amount where I don't love Made in America. Right. Like the Holosun optics, right? Or some of this other stuff, there's only a certain amount that I can, or people in the consumer goods are willing to pay for that and stuff, which is tough. I want to see us get manufacturing prices to a reasonable amount. But yeah, that's I think a barrier for a lot of these companies.
Well, if Trump decides to, if he gets elected and decides to eliminate the income tax and then put some tariffs on imported goods, right? I think that's going to help out the U.S. manufacturing base considerably.
I love that idea that he is talking about. I don't know if it's realistic or not, but you're speaking my language anytime you say cut taxes. So, and I do love it. I mean, it's basically putting a tax it on, tax on what you buy is what I think how it should be anyways. A consumption tax is probably a fairer tax than anything else. Any tax plan that any legislators talked about. So
yeah, that's very Hitler-esque. To tax foreign nations and give people their money back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you could do it like in a inverse graduated fashion. So like reduce the income tax federal or gradually, and then increase tariffs gradually until they're canceled out. Like it would just wean you off of the current system and give you time to build that base. But I think it's great, and it's true, man. It's just hard to rationalize spending 2 to 3 times more for something when you don't have a lot of money to rub together in the first place. You're not going to be like, I'm going American made on everything if you're really scraping by.
Yeah. I mean, there's some awesome, I was thinking about it. Nate, you mentioned earlier something about American manufacturing. You got me thinking of like Origin, this company Origin, that
Origin
like
USA
making man. But I'm the guilty party that hasn't paid for bought a set of jeans or boots from them yet because it's like, man, $100 jeans or whatever they are, but I need to put my money where my mouth is and support it. But I love that, what they're doing.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
I bought a jiu-jitsu gi from them. I bought some shirts. Yeah. I am when I get ready for hunting season this next year, I'm definitely going to buy my hunting apparel from them. I haven't thrown down on the jeans yet, just because I don't know. I like my Wranglers.
I know. Well, and I need to be able to try them on too first.
Yeah.
No, I do.
No doubt.
Do they good? Their camo is pretty cool. I like what they've done. If I if I hadn't spent all my money on Sitka, I'd be looking at getting some of that this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's super
Yeah,
cool.
they've got good stuff, and I love the fact that they are manufactured. Like, what do they say, from like dirt to shirt or something like that? Like, it's
Yeah,
all American grown. It's built here. The whole story about the way they went and found the looms. That, like, there was like literally
yeah,
like one person left, I think, that like knew how to run the
yeah,
loom, and so they had to hurry up and like
yep,
extract that knowledge to then be able to pass that on. And
yep,
now they're just, I mean, they're like hiring people straight out of high school and just training them like into essentially a
yep,
trade. It's
You know what's
fantastic.
crazy about them too? I just saw this today on Instagram or Facebook, and I can't remember if it was an ad or a post, but it just says, "We refuse to grow fast if it comes at the expense of being able to maintain our integrity." That was
Yeah.
essentially what it said. It's like, we're not going to
that is
chase
so
growth.
good.
I know, and
Yep,
like, it really struck me. I was like, man, I wish we want to adopt that kind of a mindset, because we're just so focused on growth.
yeah,
And but like, I can't remember. It's like, we we're not going to grow unless we can grow great people, something like that. I'll find
hmm
it. It was just
Yeah.
like, it impacted me significantly, because I've always loved what they do, and we've been able to grow really fast, but it comes with a lot of downsides, and a lot of them that I don't even really enjoy. Like today's
right.
was very unpleasant, where just
Hmm.
an ad campaign, I was like, oh, oops, maybe we didn't do that right, and put me in a bad mood for 30 minutes. Which is a lot better than normal.
Quicker turnover rate there. Have you,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chad? Have you listened? Do you listen to the Jocko podcast at all?
I do. Yeah.
He's got an interview. 'Cause, he's got an interview with Pete Robinson.
Okay.
It's Robertson. I think it's Robertson. I think it's Pete Robertson. The guy that he's partners with now over there, and like they get the
Yep.
whole
I need to
backstory
listen
on
to
all of that. It's one of the better ones. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's pretty early. It's pretty. I don't know how early on it is, but it's pretty early on.
Okay.
But that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's like we spend so many of our working hours like with work. It's like, you want to be able to build a work at a place like that really wants to grow people and build a great product. It sounds like that's what you guys did at Shadow Systems. Sounds like you got to build a great team. Like, you guys built some really great products, and
Yeah.
you got to really
Yeah.
see that grow. If you were going to go back into the firearms industry, would you want to work with Shadow Systems again, or like, would you want to? Or is there someone else out there that you'd be like, just something different? Like you.
Yeah, I think I want to do something different. I think I want to either like be able to take a company and go lead it, that's maybe needing some help and growth, and like kind of take it and lead it, and or start something. I really want to, and I was a vice president there, but like I really want to be able to be influence the culture
Mm-hmm.
of the organization a lot more, the strategic direction and the cultural direction of the company. And so that's where I want to go. If I do something, either, take something. I kind of like that, the maximizer of taking something that's already
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but maybe it's, there's some things that need, or it would be awesome to just, start something here in my garage too and go. But I really do want, I would like to get back somewhat into the actual manufacturing side again. There's just, man, there's something to it. Like, it's just such a necessary trade and a necessary service for the country. So yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Did you know? Did you know LMT Firearms is over here? Not LMT. Shoot,
LMT,
LMT. Yeah, I was like, that's
Lewis
amazing.
Machine and Tool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're right over here too.
There's a bunch right here. You got Springfield Armor, you got LMT, you got Rock River, you got Les Bear. There's
I've got a Rock River.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like an epicenter of firearms, just right here. I don't know why.
yeah,
Maybe it's
yeah.
Mississippi.
Yeah, it's there's a bunch of it that's right here. There's several like contract machine shops in the area too that do work for a lot of those companies too. So the firearms industry employs a lot of people. Not necessarily, not just even in the the manufacturers but in these subcontractors that support all all of these manufacturers. There's whether it's raw, guys that are making slide blanks or barrel blanks or polymer injection or whatever. Very few companies are actually truly making everything. There's a whole lot of subcontractors and that support this industry and in one way, shape, or form. So it employs a lot of people. I just want to keep more and more of it here in the States.
Yeah, for sure.
So with Shadow Systems and other Glock clones, how is it that they're able to make something that looks so much like a Glock and then have it not violate any of the patents?
Yeah, so a lot of with Shadow and like you got Zev, you've got, I mean, a lot of striker fired. I mean, you take apart that Mossberg pistol, you take apart Springfield, you take a lot of these are all pretty much Glock operating systems inside of them. A lot of them are based basically on Gen 3 or Gen 4 Glocks, which the patents are all expired on that. Now Glock had some interesting I think it was called like trade dress or something, where they actually somehow were able to kind of, I don't know if it's patent or trademark, but like the actual look of the pistol, there was like certain features of that pistol they were able to get like in a patent or trademark, which was pretty interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing that you could do. And so that's why a lot of these companies have to, the Gen 4 operating system, that patent's open, so they can use that kind of operating system internally, but they've got to change cosmetically, to not violate it. But yeah, that's why there's been so much of that in the past 20 years, 15 years, because there's been the expiration of those patents, and so a lot of companies have. Even Palmetto State's a lot. Their dagger and other things are very Glock clones and stuff too. So
got it. Yeah,
coming after.
I was wondering how that was possible. It makes sense.
Yep.
As I look at a Gen 2 Glock 17 and a Gen 4 19 right here.
Gen 2, man, you got an old one there. That's awesome.
I got it from Palmetto State for a friend. I'll be selling it to him when he has all the money for it, so I was like, I'll buy it for you right now. It was on sale.
Nice.
I think it's a police
Nice.
trade-in.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it feels nasty. I'm like, I'm so glad that this is not my gun.
That's good.
That's why I went the Bull Armory UL Comp. Yeah, I got the one that Nick Johnson or PewView recommended. Oh, I don't know if I can't share it here, but the comp is on the end of the barrel, and it's affixed to the barrel as opposed to that's how a comp works. It's the ugliest freaking gun. Like,
is it?
It looks like a goblin shark. I'll see if I can pull up the representation I did, but I don't care that it's ugly because it shoots well. But I'm like, I'm glad I didn't buy this for aesthetics.
Yeah. Well, I think I was looking at that one that was like, I think it was the TAC Pro, or it's not comp, but it's got a ported sliding barrel on it, which looked pretty cool. But
yeah, the UL comp, the one that I got, they don't make anymore. So let's see if it does this. Okay, so I'm gonna get up close to the camera.
Yeah, it's not really focusing.
I don't know if I can drop it in the chat either, but it's just ugly.
It is ugly. But hey, it probably shoots amazing.
Yeah, it shoots darts. He was out there. Not that he has any problem shooting any gun from distance, but he all the way up to 173 yards for a shot with it. Yeah,
that guy's ridiculous. He's such a good shooter. It's so cool. It's so cool. I love seeing people like that are just like so good at their skill set. Like, wow, man. If I could, I'm a decent shooter, and I don't feel like I hold a candle to him. So,
yeah, I don't think many people do.
He's actually gotten really good at transitions with targets using this new ACE system, which uses the Meta Pro. So they have a couple different polymer frame guns that have the piece on top, and so a staccato would be one, and then you put on the Meta Pro, and then you just actually shoot all of the different targets, and you can run stages and everything like that. And he said that's been a game changer for him. So now I know how I'm going to become Pew 2.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let me. What's the Meta Pro? Is that like the
It's like the Oculus.
Facebook?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
the little
Well, that's
headset.
kind of cool. That's a cool training for training and stuff.
Yeah,
Because I actually at SHOT Show was looking for some different companies that were doing some of the either augmented reality or virtual reality training stuff. Some of it's terrible, but there's some really cool stuff out there technology wise coming in that kind of augmented reality space that I think is going to be great for training. This sounds like it might be.
yeah. If you go to acexr.com, that's where they'll show you how it works. That's the membership site, I guess. So acexr.com. Yep.
Huh.
And I guess it's just built off of a Staccato. I thought there was other handsets, but it looks amazing. And I mean,
Well, that's cool.
yeah, it's like dry firing at home
Okay,
with
nice.
AR augmented reality. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool. And you look cool while you're wearing it too.
Yeah, you look real cool. So cool
Super
that you
cool.
just want to do it in your home so nobody can see you.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I'm gonna do that in the driveway. No,
what do you
yeah.
do for your training, Chad, on a regular basis?
So I try to shoot. I have a group of guys that I shoot with on a fairly regular basis. We try to go every Wednesday. It doesn't happen every week, but and if not, we find another night. But we get together. We'll do set up, like a weekly kind of competition, or bi-weekly, however often we do that. So I try to do that with a group of guys. One, it's a lot of fun. It's good community building.
Yeah.
You see, you got different stages every week, that we're going to do. And it's, sometimes it's just pistol, sometimes it's pistol and AR. But it's fun. And we do all of it from, everything. Obviously the AR isn't, but all pistol stuff is from concealment, which it's fun to, dress up and put on the chest rig and the battle belt and all that stuff, but it's not super realistic for real training. I think people need to spend a lot more time training from concealment. So that's what's fun about it. Actually, reload. Hey, do you carry your spare mag in a mag pouch, or you carry it in your pocket or whatever? Well, okay, reload from your pocket or whatever. So try to do that. And then we got two other guys that I teach some classes with occasionally that we do some stuff, and we like to just get together and like print off. We printed off like GBRS and put out some training standards or point one tactics, or Scott Jelinski would put it, and we go print off some of their stuff and try to shoot their standards, or the Air Marshals qual, or different law enforcement agencies quals. We just try to get together and do those things. And for the most part, we always try to run them from concealment too, which it's just like, hey, this is actual real life. I'm not going to be walking around with a battle belt and stuff or anything like that. You don't
wear your battle belt to church?
I know, I should, right?
I do.
But yeah, so that's what I like to do for training. And then on the farm, we have some, I had a couple spots where we'll set up and I can shoot a little bit longer distance stuff, which is kind of fun. That's what I really would like to learn. I'd like to do some actual training with somebody on distance shooting. Now, I mean, I got to be honest. I don't really care about shooting at 1,000 yards, other than be able to say you can do it. But just to get a little bit better, like 500, 600, 700 yards, being able to dial and read the wind and do all that. That's what I'd love to learn that, just because it's not something I am good at. So
yeah, that's definitely a skill.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've got a guy here, and I think I don't know if he lives in Dripping Springs anymore. He did. I had planned to train with him years ago, and then I ended up getting busy and I didn't do it. And I just haven't circled back on it. God, his name was, I'm not gonna remember his last name now, but he was a Green Beret, and he still actively trains the snipers and works with the Green Beret snipers. But nice. he would do a training thing down here in Dripping Springs. I don't know if he did down here. He lived down here. But he typically would. You would have to be able to provide like the land, like where you're actually going to go and shoot, because he didn't have a place that you could just consistently go all the time. But Yeah, I've always been
Yeah.
very intrigued by that, being able to make the adjustments like that and do the wind like you're saying. It's a fascinating skill set to be able to have. Do you hunt out on your farm property at all?
I do, yeah, yeah. So we've got, I mean, mainly whitetail deer that I hunt out there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So and I love it, because I mean, everything we shoot, we
Yep.
eat, and so my last year was a lot of fun because my middle daughter got her first deer
Okay.
ever. Which was cool. And my son got two. He had gotten some before, but he got his first one with a bow last year.
Nice. That's
And
exciting.
then yeah, so that was fun. I did not shoot one last year. I was the teaching how to field dress deer last year was my job, and so but that was, tell you what,
That's great.
it was so much fun. Those are the three best deer of my life, and I didn't pull the trigger on any
That's
of them, so
fantastic.
it was great. Yeah,
So I
it
know
was
you,
fun.
you,
So
you mentioned one. You mentioned you have a senior. What are the ages of your other kids?
So, well, my senior's graduated. He's in the Army
Okay.
now, or at basic training, and then I have I guess we're in the summer, so going to be a junior and going to be a sophomore in high
Okay.
school. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, keeping us busy.
Yeah,
So,
the pattern was pretty tight there.
yeah, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
You got
I
busy
know
and stayed busy.
it's got busy, stayed busy. Yep, that's right. It's interesting. Like we're coming up to a different season of life that's kind of, not far away. Like that whole empty nest thing too. It's just weird. I mean, not having my son around right
I
now.
bet.
Yeah.
It's so. I just, yeah, you're used to seeing them, and the goofy things that, all those things, like, man, I'd like to have him, not put his shoes away and annoy me for a day or what.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I'd love to have him home right now, but I'm super happy for him. But yeah, it's a weird stage of life that it's like, man, in a couple of years, it's just gonna be my wife and I.
Yeah, it's
And so
happens quick.
it does.
You
It
say
does.
that, like, you not having your son around. I've got a 6-year-old son, 2-year-old daughter.
Uh-huh.
Like, I gag at the thought of him not being here. I'm like, what? Now,
Right.
granted, a
I know.
teenage boy I might be okay with that, but a 6-year-old, like, if
Yeah,
he
well,
was just like, I'm gonna go out for a year, I'd be like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
terrible.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got one that's
Yep.
about to leave
Do you?
in August. Yeah, she's moving up to
Okay.
Montana to go to school up there. So excited! I'm excited for her. She's going to Montana. She definitely picked a very cool spot.
Oh.
So I'm a little.
Heck
Told her, I
yeah.
was like, if you were trying to not see us much, like you might have failed. Like we will definitely be coming up to Montana as much as we can.
Oh yeah.
Um,
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it's crazy how fast that happened. Then I've got a
Mhm.
sophomore and then a 12-year-old, so 15 and a 12-year-old. So happens
Okay.
quick. But you're
Yes, it
with your
does.
son, like so why do you pick the Army, and what's kind of, does he have like some specific aspirations that he's shooting for?
He does. So he decided. So at 9 years old, he got a book from the library on Army Special Forces or his military, and he, like, from the time he was 9, knew he was going to the military.
Okay.
And so he is going in as a combat medic, but he is going to at least be, after basic and AIT, going to try out for the Rangers,
Okay.
because that's
There you
what
go.
he's wanted to do. So that's his goal, is get on with the get into the Rangers and stuff.
Rangers are no joke. That's
No,
awesome.
yeah, and it was, he knew he wanted to go to the Rangers. He thought he wanted to go infantry at first, but then when he turned 16, he was able to volunteer on our volunteer fire department and ambulance, and being around that changed him, where he's like, I think I want to do the medic thing. And
That's
so
awesome.
so it's pretty fun. And actually, so he and I actually went through the emergency responder course together earlier this year, which was a lot of fun. And
Very cool.
yeah, so it was good
Does
to do.
he
So
like to run?
he's learned to like to
Okay.
run. So
I was gonna say, 'cause from what I understand, the Rangers, they
Oh.
run a lot. There's a lot of running.
a lot, run a lot, and
Not
they're
sleep.
they're not slow
No.
either. So yeah,
No, they're not.
yeah,
Very exciting.
no. So yeah, he's been this past year, he has really been spending a lot more time running and stuff, and I mean, I couldn't keep up with it anymore. We would also go out and we were doing rucks and stuff together too,
That's
which
cool.
has been a lot of fun. Actually, my neighbor and I are gonna up here by Adam and I, we got the Bix 7 mile run coming. Are you running it?
Yeah, you already registered?
Yeah, I'm rucking it. We're rucking it.
Oh,
So
you are? With a
yeah.
Go Ruck?
So he's got a Go Ruck. I'm using my Mystery Ranch backpack from hunting and stuff. So yeah.
What load are you doing?
So I'm doing 35.
Okay. What about
Yeah.
your buddy? Or your
I
son's
don't know.
doing it? Oh, your
No,
buddy's
well, no, my neighbor's doing it. So he, I don't know. He was going with 50 pounds the other day, and he rolled his ankle. So
Oh,
I don't know. He might be backing off. So
yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
probably
doesn't.
didn't feel,
I mean,
that
yeah,
probably didn't feel too good.
rucking
yeah.
like that doesn't sound too terrible. So
No,
Bix is
it's
like,
just that first hill.
yeah, that. Oh, so get this. So Nate and everybody listening, the Bix is it's like a really hilly 7 mile course, and it starts off with probably like a third of a mile and maybe a 10. I don't know what the incline is, but it's pretty
Yeah,
significant.
it's steep.
And my wife ran it. She sprinted it to try out for the sprints last week, which is something where that you run a quarter mile up there and
Yeah.
you're done. And she did it in a minute 30, and she said that she would have rather run the Bix twice than ever do that again.
Dude, doing sprints like that up a hill is.
Oh,
I did I did a Spartan sprint in Washuga,
Yeah.
Washington, back in that 2 year period where I lived in Oregon, and the beginning of the race was in a motocross park, and the first I think it had to have been a quarter mile or a little bit over, but it was a sprint across the field, and then it was like an incline like that. And I remember when I got to the top of that incline, it was the closest I'd been to throwing up like in a long time. I was like, I was not ready for that. I definitely wasn't. Like, I think I went out of body. I think I went full out of body experience on that race that day. I was not prepared, and like I just remember like at one point like the brain just like shut off, and it just became like I'm just going through this, and there was a part of it that was like really purifying. Like it hit like this flow state type thing where I was not really feeling my body anymore, but it was gnarly. The best part was the in motocross parks where they have like the really big jumps, like where it's like 100 yards, like of just an incline or decline.
yeah.
It might have been longer that day, but like they had that entire thing covered with barbed wire, so you couldn't stand up. You had to stay in a prone position. They had ropes that came. I think there was 3 ropes that came down, but it was only like the last it might have been 50% or a little bit further up, but like. You had to figure out how to get your way up through the mud because they're up there with fire hoses. And they're spraying fire hoses up in the air, soaking the thing down. I'm like going up this thing, and I'm like looking over to the right, and there's this woman in the fetal position, like crying on the side. And I'm just like,
Holy cow!
and I'm just like, you don't have to do this. Like you can stop whenever you want. Like
Yeah.
But I just remember I was going out that one, and I was
man.
like, this was I'm looking forward to the beer at the end of the race. We'll just say that.
Yeah, no kidding. Those are fun. I've wanted to do one of those Go Ruck races you mentioned, Adam, but yeah, those I haven't done one. I did. I think it was. I don't know if it was the Spartan one you mentioned, Nate, or one of the other ones. It was on Fort Carson Army Base in Colorado.
Spartan Warrior was another popular one, and then
Warrior,
Tough Mudder.
yeah.
Tough Mudder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never did the Tough Mudder one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds like
Those
the
are
big
fun.
sounds like that's an interesting track.
It is an interesting track just because of those hills and the way it starts,
Huge.
and yeah.
Like it gets.
Yeah.
I think they have 20 to 25,000 people running it. So.
Oh, wow.
Like, when you consider the major runs in the United States, it's one of the biggest ones, and I think. Is there an Olympics yeah, there's an Olympics coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
this summer.
basically a big Olympic proving ground. So there's going to be a ton of the top marathoners and top
Okay.
like whatever is underneath that there, just kind of to test themselves out before the Olympics.
That's cool. You said,
Yeah,
I am not one of those.
Yeah.
gosh, man, no.
If I can do it under an hour, I'd be stoked.
Yeah, and it's a weird distance, right? It's a 7 mile.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an odd distance for a race, but yeah.
When you also finish most of the race on the hill that you start, so you've already run like 6 miles, and then your legs are dead, and then you have to go down the hill. And most of the time,
Trying to control yourself,
I
yeah.
just take the brakes off. I don't even. I just fall. I'm just falling down, which is a skill that I've somehow adapted. But
That's
it's cool that you're
good.
doing it. So,
Yeah.
with your son being in the Army and clearly
Yeah.
making that decision almost 10 years ago, how do you feel about that now compared to like thinking about that 10 years ago, knowing the state of our military and its leadership?
Yeah. So it was, I mean, we had a lot of, had some heartburn, not with him going, but with who is in charge currently.
Yeah.
And, we were, you know, we he wasn't, and we weren't going to support it either if they were still going to have the vaccine mandate in place. That was a no go, wasn't going to happen and stuff. And then, so when that got dropped, we're like, okay, well, his thought was like, we sure hope and pray that there's a change of administration in November, and we can start fixing this thing, fixing this country. Now, and the other side of it is, if he decides to go 20 years, there's going to be good administrations and bad administrations in that time frame. And so, I hope and pray that there is a change in that. The other side of it, though, is like, we need good people that are willing to go and serve and be this next generation of people to pick up and protect this country. And I've heard a lot of go back to the gun YouTube influencers and stuff. A lot of those guys there's a lot of former military guys in there, and I totally love and respect all that they do. I hear a lot of them like, oh, I would not want my kid at all to go in. And I think, this is my opinion only, what a shame. Like, we need good men and women that are willing to go in and do that. And the last thing you should want is to like retreat and run away from that and be like, not going to do that. You're not going to fix it by avoiding it. And so, So while I worry about the current administration and the thought of like, some idiot, sending him over to some BS war in Ukraine or wherever and stuff that we shouldn't be a part of. And, again, my opinion only, but, you start thinking about that. Like, I want the best army, the best military, and I want us to never have to use it.
Yeah.
And, war's a terrible, awful thing, and it's the last thing we should ever want. And I get really, that's the thing. You really start paying attention to, what's going on, and why are these people? Why do they want these wars? Why do they want these things? And you go back and you listen to like, Dwight. Have you guys listened to Dwight Eisenhower's, farewell speech where he talks about the whole military industrial complex, like where that term came from, and like that whole speech, like, holy cow, like it is so true, and it is an absolute terrible thing, and so I have mixed emotions. I believe everybody should serve in some capacity. Serve this country in some capacity. I think it is a noble thing. I think it's an honorable thing, and I think it helps instill pride in our country and what it means to be an American true patriot. And so I think everybody should have an opportunity, and everybody should take some opportunity, whether that means you're on your volunteer ambulance or fire department or law enforcement or military or whatever. I think it's a good thing to serve your community and to serve your country. And so I'm super proud. I'm also super nervous, right? As a parent, just watching, I probably pay more attention to global events than I ever have. Just when you're like, I love him or hate him with Donald Trump. At least we weren't in, getting into unnecessary wars around the world.
Yeah.
I appreciate that about him. And I was not a fan of him in 2016, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. But yeah.
And is your son doing basic right now, or is it?
So we've gotten to talk to him for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, so far he is, and he, as much as you can. And part of it is like when you know, like he's knowing he spent so much time over this past few years kind of preparing and getting ready for it. Like, he's loving it. He's eating it up. But it's a, we talked about this before he went, like, Jack's his name. Like, Jack, you're choosing to go do this. You could choose to go do a lot of things, but you're choosing to go do this. There's going to be people there with you that they don't have any other options. This is the only option they have, and they don't even really want to be there.
Right.
And so you're going to get in there, and there's going to be a bunch of people that are lazy. They don't want to do anything. They defy, authority and all of that, but you're going to have to navigate that, because for some of these folks, this is the only choice that they have. We have some friends, like single parents, and like, I can't afford, this kid, and they can't go to school, can't do anything. If they want options and opportunities, that is it. And so that child going in has a very different mentality than somebody who, 10 years ago is like, this is what I'm going to go do and stuff. So, the little bit we've gotten to talk, and he mentioned it in a letter we got this week, like you have people that are in there that they don't have the pride of being an American. They don't have that. And he's like, wrestling with this.
Yeah.
How can this be? And so it's definitely eye opening for him, but the other side of it is, like, you really stand out and you get recognized, because that was the thing. He's like he's had the opportunity in a little bit of time he's been there to kind of already earn some leadership opportunities and things, which is really cool. But, comes because, like, you want this probably more than anybody else that's there. And so, which is so true in all of life, every aspect of life, right?
It's just cool he's living his dream. I mean, that's really
it is
amazing.
I don't know if he's going to be writing back from Ranger School saying, I love it.
No, yeah. I haven't slept in a week. Yeah. This is so much fun.
I'm having the best time, Dad.
Yeah.
They probably will take away the pads and the pens at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yep, exactly. Yeah, we had a lot of fun joking around with him, like, before, because he was not the kid that liked to get up early or do any of that.
Oh,
and so I'm like, I'm sure you can just be like, hey, drill sergeant, can I sleep 5 more minutes or whatever? I'm sure they'll be fine with that.
It's like, this pillow feels so good right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No, it's cool. It's cool. So, and it's just, you think about that with any, your daughter going off to Montana or whatever, like how exciting it is to sit there. And I mean, I know I've been told this before, like, but it is so true. Like, nothing I've accomplished in my life brings as much joy and pride as watching your kids succeed and just live out their life. Like, it's like, yeah. So it's really neat.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And Montana, I think we're all going to go visit your daughter in Montana, because Montana's so great.
Yeah, no, I haven't been up there yet. My wife has done the trips up there with her so far, but I'm going to drive her up early mid-August, and I'm looking forward to checking out. But yeah, so she's going to be up in Bozeman, so I'm like, keep hearing pretty fantastic things about it. They're like,
Bozeman is amazing.
Yeah, so
amazing.
Yeah, she's going to enjoy it. We'll see if she comes back. She's planning on trying to get a job in Yellowstone in the summer. I'm like, we might not ever see her again.
Yeah, exactly. You might be moving to Montana to see her.
It's entirely possible.
That wouldn't be a bad place.
No.
I really like it. Yeah. It's cold, though.
Mm-hmm.
Much colder than here. So
Yeah.
I have my Florida house, my Montana house.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Good spectrum of experience there. Yeah. No, we'd be... Montana's definitely different than Texas. I'd have to get used to the cold. The coldest environment I've ever lived in was just outside of Portland, Oregon, and I mean it got a little cold, but like not cold. It was never bad. Like, I was never outside going like, wow, if I get stuck outside, like I might die today. Like, yeah, it's pretty temperate.
Yeah, we know a little bit about cold here. I think that
this past winter was pretty cold.
It's like, it's interesting. It's cold, but it's really cold for a week or two. So it's not like it's absolutely miserable for 4 or 5 months.
But you can
Well,
legit
yeah,
die outside up there. Where you guys live, you can die outside.
Oh yeah.
Nature will
Well,
kill you.
It was negative
Yeah.
36 driving to Chicago back in January.
Uh-huh.
It's like, okay, yeah, this is cold. No
Yeah.
mouse would have crawled out of my engine bay and gotten swept off the windshield because it would have been frozen. Which happened when I went to Chicago 2 weeks ago. This is great. Every time I got in my car, which is a 2005 Corolla, paid off.
Nice.
I don't drive it much, so I don't really care. But
Yep.
I was getting in there, and it was smelling like pee. I'm like, what in the world? Did some animal get in here? Took out the air filter, and I found a bunch of pee, poop, and acorns. I was like, oh, something's living inside of here. So changed the air filter, and I set up all these traps around my yard. I wasn't sure if it was a chipmunk or a mouse, so I've set up all these traps. And I go drive down to Austin 2 weeks ago, and as I'm driving, I'm listening to the new Terminal List book by Jack Carr. Great book for everybody who wants to listen to it
yes.
on Red Sky Morning. Yep. But as I'm listening
Finishing
to
it right now.
See something like at my windshield. Oh, are you? Yeah. Well, actually, so
Yeah.
tell me, you've already made it through the torture scene, right?
No.
Where he's how far?
I'm.
Oh, whoops. You haven't made
Well, that's all right. He's had several torture scenes in all his books, right? So no.
Yeah, this one in the scene in this book was particularly hard for me. So that's
Okay.
actually what I was listening to when the mouse popped out onto my windshield, like right where the windshield meets the engine bay compartment. And so it like took my mind off of that scene for a second. I was like, oh, it is a mouse that's in my car. And then all of a sudden it just gets swept off into the freeway. I was like, now I feel really bad because I just enjoyed that. And I'm listening to a torture scene in a book and not enjoying it. So what's wrong with me?
No, those are great books. Such good books.
They are. They're incredible.
But I was not a fan. I did not like
Fine,
the TV. I didn't like the show. I didn't think they did a good job on the show, personally.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with the show. I mean, I thought it was good, but man, the
Yeah.
books were so good.
Yeah. When you're sitting there watching it and you're
I
like,
get it,
that's
though.
not how he kills that guy. He
Don't
kills
make him
that guy a
feel
different way.
Yep, exactly. And he wasn't having flashbacks. He was just having headaches.
Oh, man. Yeah, the
Yeah,
flashbacks, there was a
flashbacks
little
were
too much of
weird.
that. But
Yeah. So yeah, the torture scene in the mouse that was a funny little incident for me. And those books are amazing.
Yeah,
Well, cool.
I agree.
We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So I think knowing that you had some issues with your phone, I think it's a perfect place for us to trail on out on Patriot on Purpose, brought to you by Nate and Adam and Chad today.
Yeah, appreciate how.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on. It's really it's great to meet you both and to talk to you,
Yeah,
and
you as well, Chad.
love what you're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'll get
Yeah.
up with you. We'll go to Milan Gun Range and shoot. Now that they just did the nullification of the pistol brace rule, I can go ahead and put that on my little short-barreled non-rifle and take it over to Illinois
Absolutely,
with the 10-round magazine.
absolutely. Well, yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, ridiculous. Well, great. And Chad, are you active on any social media where people can follow you or anything, or are you just you're just a private guy who wants to just farm his 1,000 acres and be left alone?
Yeah, I'm a pretty private guy. Yeah, I don't do any of it. So
Awesome. Well,
Right on,
in
man.
that
I'm
case-
boring.
well, we
No, that's
not at all.
that's the way to
It's,
be.
Definitely not boring.
He's
Appreciate you
got
being
a
on
secret
today.
TikTok channel with 150,000
Yeah.
followers that nobody knows about. Probably
Yeah,
just
that's right.
dances
Yeah.
with the in the cornfields.
I do. Hey, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll try that.
There you go.
Yeah, nobody would see you, and then those internet sleuths, they probably couldn't figure out where you were.
That's right. That'd be hilarious. Well, cool.
All right, awesome.
All right.
Well, for
Well,
all
thank
of
you guys very much.
Yep,
You bet.
absolutely. Thank you, Chad.
And yeah, for everybody who listened, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, review, all the good stuff that tells the algorithm that all of their woke ideology is wrong and we are right. Patriots rule. All right. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
See ya.